Now we have Jal Bhai welcoming the online viewers for the 11th legacy program, which is a dealing with 1950 to 53 Baba's life and work. Up till now, we have covered 1951 and the early 1952, ending with Man-o-nash period. So afterwards, this is the period, and this is being covered under legacy program. And Jal Bhai is here to welcome all the viewers all over the globe. Up till now, we had in a limited hall. The meeting was there, but this time Baba has given us chance to welcome all whosoever is participating, viewing this program. And in legacy program, we are trying to discover the Avataric treasure in different ways by discussing his work and his life during different period. So here is Jal Dastoor welcoming you, and whatever he remembers about this, about the program, about Baba's activities. We are not very rigid about Jal uncle that he should stick to 52, 53 because he has a great storehouse of Baba's treasure. So he's sharing some of the treasure with us.
We all, the trust and everyone here, especially the chairman, welcomes you all here. But just see the trend. 10th, up to 10th legacy program, we were alive on day-to-day basis. Today, we are having this kind of grafting. Well, Baba is showing us the ways and means of what one could do, what we can do. And that is why here is one more thing Baba is, you know, challenging us to do whatever we can do. Yes. So in this period, and this is what we are having in this period, what I remember, and I'm going to tell you the story. There was opening of Kovur Center. Come, boss, come this side also. The opening of Kovur Center, and Baba had told us by by letter or something like that, it is going to be a very big affair, and please do go there and just see as to what their love for me is. It's going to be a big statue, and it's being told that it is one of the best statues ever had been given. So we were there, and something or the other would come across, and nobody went to go. Only 6 persons. That also I'm not only 6 person, and also they were, musicians and this and that, and that is exactly what happened. Only 6 person went out to go from Bombay Central. Baba, after this, everything was there. Baba got the news. How was it? It was very good, Baba. How many people came in? Lots of people were there from Hyderabad. And all the centers, other centers also come. Yes, Baba, some other centers were also there. What about Bombay? Only 6%. Is that all? I was thinking that so this was it. Now, as you know, whenever we used to go to Pune and meet beloved Baba, this was one fine day. We were there at about say about 8 o'clock, 8:30, something like that, at Guru Prasad. And naturally, Ababaji went to Baba and said, Baba, your Bombay group has come. Ask them to come. And it was really very good. We were there seated and all that, you know. And he just went on and on and on. And later on he said, you know, Kobul had a real good function. It was so beautiful. Many people came there. How many of you went there? As if to say that he doesn't know anything. How many of you were there? Somebody said, Baba, my children's exam was there. All these things were there, you know. Everyone had some excuse or something or the other. And lastly, I tell you, we were so excited. Somebody said that, Baba, I was sick. And Baba said, you would have died and I would have been very happy if you were to go there and join me there. So Baba said that you would have died. I said, I had told you all. I had asked, I had invited you to be at Cove, and your center has made a big zero. I'm not very happy about it at all. So he was in such a mood, I tell you, this was, something like a slap over slaps from beloved Baba. And he said, I'm not happy about you at all. That was it. This was the school's theory. But then, just later on, eh, next year, or I think it was next year or whatever it is, the Hamirpur program came in. And we were told that, let us tell you, Hamirpur is very, poor uh, country, and you will not get any good, sort of beds and this and that and all that and all. But let me tell you, because of our Babas, we were not only 3, 4, we were 44. I still remember 44 because I had taken, the tickets, up to Jhansi, and then we were 44. And I tell you, there was a big pandal, tent was there. We were there, men separately, women separately, and all that. But we were 44 there, and we, uh, it was something like this, that we repent for what we have done, and that is why we were all there. Even I still remember that Nauroji Papa and his brother Adesar or something, they were also there. Many old people were also there. Many old people were there. And in fact, now sometimes we had to travel even on a bullock cart. And the bullock cart, and there would be some big uh, stone and all that, and you would naturally get a pinch on your back. But no, everyone was there. Even our old days, they prefer to walk along with that bullock cart and all that. And it was such a. I have never ever seen this and this these young ones, because I'm old. That is why I'm telling them, young ones. I tell you, they were there, and there was a band, and they were all dancing and all that. These old ones, I tell you, that time I didn't have a camera or anything. I, it was just enjoy about it, it was somewhere about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening. We had just finished. But Babuji, what did you tell us? Where there is love, Hamirpur is the land of love. And I tell you, it was the land of love. I used to see there, there was one guy who was serving us the breakfast. He was there, and we had, and he was Baba lover, and we were all. The same guy was there for our lunch, and we were having a good service by having bus from this center to that center, and all that. Whereas when this guy was there, I said, it's somewhere about 1920 kilometers. I said, how did you come? Very easy, sir. I have a bicycle and I ride. But then again, he really gave me a shock when at dinner, which was also another 20, 30 months, the same thing, same thing. This everyone was so much welcoming us. I tell you that kind of welcome, that kind of welcome was never ever seen by anyone. And our Kishan, what's his name?
Kishan Singh.
Huh?
Kishan Singh.
Kishan Singh. No, our Mer Chalisa,
Mer Chalisa. Keshav Narayan.
Keshav Narayan and Pukar and all these people. I tell you, they were working and working and working, nothing doing. And I said, how much are you saying? They must have spent something more. I don't know what it is, but we were just there, and all everything was there. That, yeah, and yes, to tell you the fact, when we boarded at Jhansi, a bus to take us to our. Till then, I was thinking that, oh, this is Jhansi, it's all right, Those 7 days inside all Hamirpur, when I came back to Jhansi and started haggling these Hamars to carry our bags and all that, and I said, again I have started in this commercial world of beloved Baba. It was so much, so much. I mean, you- even now, I've gone there about 2, 3 times. Even now, I tell you, there is nothing more than the love that they show us, like brothers and sisters. That is what it is. And this is the love because we all must feel Baba's Baba and his advent and all that. The love, it will come out in near future because we are one family, only one. Thank you.
I have one question related to this experience. As you have described Hamirpur, we have also felt that when we started coming here after Baba dropped his body, he would come for darshan. And you were the architect of the same kind of welcome which you were giving to us, all of us. So my question is this: whether that was your just natural way, or you have got some encouragement from Hamirpur that I should also do the same thing. This is very
Thi-
important.
This is what happened when Baba was in, I mean, in Mehrabad on 1st or about 3rd or 4th of February. Baba was lying there. And we were just, Dolly and I were just discussing something. And Dolly said that I don't know why. I think we'll send our ears at Mehrabad. And I tell you, I tell you that I was in a shipping department, hardly having more than 2,000 rupees job. And I was saying, what is going to happen? I told Dolly, I said, yes, Dolly, I will make it. We'll make it. But then, just see, after 69 and 70, Baba really turned the key so much, so much, no doubt about it, that he would want me to work sometimes 13, 14, 18 hours a day also. Up to 80 till we came here. So this 70 to 80 was the one. I had enough money now to be in Marabad. Yeah, within 10 years, he just turned the key and that was it. I don't know how it happened. That many stories are there, but this was it. Dolly just said, "We'll be here," and I said, "Yes, we'll be." But yes, but then, and Baba had said to Meramai about after uh, about uh, about uh, four, three, 4 years after our marriage, Baba had told Meramai about Jal and Dolly. Don't worry about it. I will give them so many children, they will not be able to count.
700, he said. 700.
No, no.
Yeah.
He just said, I will give them so many children that they will not be able
He
to
will
count.
come.
And this is it. When Baba's, uh, when you have Baba, it is it is just love, that, but no doubt about it, I'm also a little bit of temper also. But then again, if there is anything I can do for anyone, I will, even now, even now I can do it. Although my health is not permitting me, but still, if anything happens, I'm there in Baba. Jai Mai Baba. Thank you very much. This Jai,
One more important question, because till Baba was in body, he would give you some instructions. But now, even now, do you ever feel that Baba is just prompting me, guiding me to do this or take care of this? Do you ever feel his presence in that way?
we are always in Baba's hand. That's one thing one must understand. We are always in Baba's hand, and he never failed us. Baba had said that my Vala, my Vala means my very dear ones, my dear ones, I will look after them. This is what Baba says. And Baba has proved it again and again in our life. Yes. In our life, yes. Dolly was also like that only. And she would also, ah, and am I, is it too
No, no,
much?
no time limit. You go on. Please go on.
Only one thing I will tell you
Yeah.
about Dolly, also because she was the one. We had gone to some center. There was Baba's statue and all that. And statue was there and all that, not kept at all. Center was not. It was not cleaned at all. And Dolly was so furious. I tell you, she was, because when we went up and we saw that there were
Droppings of the
droppings of
birds,
computers and all that.
pigeon
And
droppings.
Dolly did not say, says, "Is this the center?" Dolly was very, "Is this the center? What are you up to?" I tell you that you have to do this. Uh, Two people every day, you know, two people, two, two to three people every day to see to it that center is swept and all that and all that. And whenever we used to go to some centers, opening of the centers and all that, she would say, "This is the thing you have spent thousands of rupees, but give us a promise that you will see to it that the center is cleaned up and Baba's image is, you know, and see to it that everyone, if anyone comes from outside, not a Baba lover, but when he sees the center, then he will like to pour his love also. So that is why Dolly was everywhere. Then Dolly's first, anyone who wanted Dolly to speak anything, she would mainly do that. So this is the center. So this is why. Yes, and that is he. I mean, there are things that go wrong, but then we have to bring it right on the track. That is exactly the thing. Although we are, I tell you, we are nothing. We are not nothing. But whatever we can do, it's always the thing. Whatever we can do, we can do. That's अभी क्या है?
If you can tell that story of Dolly auntie going for Baba's darshan and you were still playing the cards and then you saw him everywhere.
This is, what do you think, sir?
That is very important.
Huh? I was very new to Baba Lama. As a Baba Lama. I said it in so many things. I tell you, Dolly would always tell me, sometimes I would say, yes, we'll do that, we'll do that. But sometimes, because Baba was not all the time coming to Bombay or something, very few times he would come, and Baba said, Baba came to Bombay. Baba came to Bombay and had uh, asked all the Baba lovers to come to some place, Not Ashiana, I'm not sure about Ashiana. And I told Dolly that I'm very busy. This is the fact I want to tell you. Yes, this is the fact. I'm very busy. It was a Sunday. And, my first, um, what would you call? Um, you know, my first love was playing cards. And that is exactly what happened. And I spent the whole Sunday playing cards. But don't tell me I was losing and losing and losing and losing. Up to up to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, after some lunch and all that. I didn't make any money or anything, but at least I was there. But I was remembering beloved Baba. I said, Baba, it is your game also. So, but then this is how Baba is a iron manga, and then he goes on giving you everything, and out of that brings you out of all this all these sorrows and gains and whatever it is. But he gives you that, and that's it. And I've told you in some time, Baba told us once, whatever I give you, It's our um, our our Nauroji Papa said, "Baba, you gave me the lunch. You know, you slept. I got hold of my. I had given you the plate, and you slept me." And Baba said, "Nauroji, there was fish inside, fish." And Nauroji Papa said, "Yes, Baba, I know about it." And then Nauroji, what, whatever it is, Baba, you have given me your prasad, and how can I ever refuse you? That is it. And then we were all sitting down, and Baba says, Baba's mood was completely changed, you know, and he said, "This is what I want you to do. Whatever I give you, whatever I give you, take it with your hand." No, Papa said, "Whatever you give me, I'm telling you, whatever I give you, just," and that is exactly the truth. Whatever he gives you, put a stop and just now nothing more.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jalbhai. Thank you. This is a great treasure we have collected.
Hey Baba, I welcome you all for watching this virtual program of 11th edition of Avataric Legacy Program. I like to call it Avataric Treasure for the simple reason that legacy is a limited thing, it can be measured, but what Spirit Baba has left for us is a vast treasure. As we dip more and more into it, we find more and more gems. As we go study, we come out with different aspects of beloved Baba's life, which teach us several things. And that is why I would like to call this program as Avataric Treasure. Our library management group at Mehrabad organizes this program, and they have been doing it for last several years. Program relates to beloved Baba's life and work. Every year, this program is held live right here in this MPC meeting hall. Unfortunately, this year, because of pandemic situation, as all over, we are having virtual gatherings. So this program also is being held in a virtual form, and I hope all of you enjoy it from the comfort of your house, wherever you are, at your leisure, I would say. But it's a wonderful opportunity for us to remember beloved Baba and find something new about what he has left behind, his teachings, or whatever we call it. And I'm happy to say that many people, they choose some specific topic and deeply make a study on that and give the presentations here. So the presentations which are going to be made here will be very, very interesting and very illuminating. This year's program covers 2 years of beloved Baba's advent, 1952 and 1953. This period follows immediately after beloved Baba's new life, what Baba called his life of hopelessness and helplessness, when Baba wandered all over India, I would say, begging, without any money, without anything, with a few companions. And hardship they bore during this period will be really we cannot imagine what sort of hardships they went through. And they went through all these things, and after this new life ended, Baba had this Man-o-nash at Hyderabad and Man-o-nash caves, which is still there. And then after he came back to Mehrabad, he planned first a visit to West, where the long pending program of opening of Myrtle Beach Center. And the Myrtle Beach, as you know, was a gift of love from Elizabeth Patterson. When Elizabeth was with Baba since 1937 to 1943, about 6-7 years, Baba had expressed his wish that to have a center or a home in West, and Baba had asked Elizabeth to choose a land which was a virgin land, not lived on by anybody, which had southwest climate, not too hot, not too cold, and had enough fresh water on it. And Elizabeth, Norina, and all those her companions, they extensively made search all over US, and ultimately she found a suitable piece of land right where her father owned the land. And Baba's other condition was this gift of land should be given from the heart. So all these conditions Myrtle Beach satisfied, and Elizabeth had established center with great painstaking and great love. And Baba, she was waiting for Baba's arrival. So in 1952, finally Baba decided to go to US. Of course, many other events also took place during this period. That here Baba had darshan programs arranged in Hamirpur, then Delhi, Nagpur, Wardha, Amravati, Savner, and so several other places. And Baba had planned this program because while Baba was in West, he had asked Pendu and Erach to visit all these places and tell people about Baba. So the spade work was done by these two stalwarts in Baba's Mandi. Then Baba also spent a lot of time at Dehradun, during which period he visited Hardwar, Rishikesh, and several other places in Himalayas where he contacted several monks and sadhus. So this was period, and there was a publication of the first issue of Awakener magazine. Then Baba's Parvardigar prayer also dictated by Baba in 1953, and the repentance prayer also, which was dictated in 1951, was first time recited while Baba was in Dehradun. So these were several important events took place during this time. So these 2 years, I would say, are very, very important for us, and we can learn a lot of things from while studying Baba's activities during these 2 years. But the most important event, I would say, was beloved Baba's accident, which took place near Prague, Oklahoma, on 24th May 1952. Baba was going from Myrtle Beach to Meher Mount, Ojai, where also Baba's center was established. And Baba had sent his main mandali. It was a long journey. Journey was planned by road right across the United States, about 9-day journey from Myrtle Beach to Meher Mount. And Elizabeth Patterson was driving one car along with Baba, Mehra, Mani and Meru, and I think Khan Bahadur Sarosh Irani was driving another car with Rano, Kitty, Goher, and Delia. Now Sarosh's car was following always Baba's car, and somehow Sarosh will lag behind for some reason or other. One reason was Baba was asked Elizabeth to drive faster. And every time when Sarosh got delayed, Baba would get annoyed and express displeasure to Sarosh and tell him, this is not good, you must, I am asking to stick with our car and you lag behind always. So this used to happen constantly. Same thing happened on 24th May also. 24th May, the morning they had left at about 10:15. They were driving a small country road in Prague, Oklahoma. Elizabeth was driving. It had rained the night before. The road was little wet. And suddenly, out of the blue, one car coming from the opposite direction swerved from left to the right lane. And in spite of Elizabeth's efforts to apply the brakes and take the car to the extreme right of the road, this oncoming car dashed against Elizabeth's car. Baba, who was sitting with Elizabeth, was thrown out, so was Mehra also. Baba's left shoulder had fracture, then left leg had fractures. Baba's mouth was bleeding, the tongue was lacerated, I think because of he was wearing lower dentures. So Baba was extensively hurt. It was an isolated place. Luckily, somebody was driving his wife to the hospital, taking his wife to the hospital in an ambulance for delivery. And when he saw this accident, the moment he reached the hospital, he sent the ambulance back along with another hearse and alerted people that there is some serious accident taken place on this road. So within a short time, the help arrived. By the time these people came, Sarosh's car also came to the spot. It took about 15 minutes for Sarosh, because on the way that day, Sarosh felt thirsty and stopped for a little while to buy some cold drink. And then when Sarosh reached that spot, he was dumbstruck seeing the whole scene. Baba was lying on the ground, he was extremely bleeding, Mehra also was there, and Mani was there. And Elizabeth was behind car's wheel. The wheel, I think, had drawn back and hurt her chest. Several of Elizabeth's ribs were broken. So this is a serious accident. But Baba, though we call this accident, I think it was not an accident because it was all predestined. We define an accident as an unfortunate event that occurs unexpectedly, unintentionally, by chance, or without apparent or deliberate action. This accident which took place does not fit all these definitions according to me. Much before the accident, Baba had several times said that he will be shedding his blood on American soil. Another thing was, just before they left Myrtle Beach, Baba asked Elizabeth, do you have insurance papers in your car? And Elizabeth did not have that. Elizabeth had insurance papers at her home. So Baba said, no, go and pick up the papers first. So Baba, inclination was there, something the insurance car paper. But another very, very touching event which took place nearly 20 years before this accident came to light much later. See, on 24th May 1932, Elizabeth Patterson met Baba on Herman on Hudson in New York, where Baba was staying with some few people. This was her second meeting with Baba. And one day on 24th May, I would say, Baba with all the people who were staying with him, they were taking a stroll outside. Everybody had walked a little distance further, but Elizabeth was walking with Baba. And Baba suddenly picks a small flower and gives to Elizabeth and tells her, remember this day. Now, Elizabeth did not understand anything about what's happening, why Baba is saying that. But anyhow, she dutifully, she took that flower and later on, she stuck that flower in her Bible and wrote the date below it, 24th May 1932. This Bible was packed with 11 other belongings in huge trunks when they came to India. And when she returned back to New York, all these trunks were stored in a storehouse. After she settled in Myrtle Beach, she got these trunks back there. And one day when she opened the trunk, she found this Bible. And when she opened this Bible, she immediately saw the flower stuck there with the date written there, 24th May 1932. And immediately she realized that 20 years before the accident took place, beloved Baba had asked us, forewarned us about this day. I think probably Elizabeth may be feeling guilty all these years that she was the cause of the accident. Like Erich used to feel guilty about the accident of Uttara when Erich was driving Baba. And Erich usually avoided to talk about this accident. He did not like to be reminded about it. So similarly, I think Elizabeth's feelings were there. So if you see all these events, I come to the conclusion that this was not an accident, this is a predestined thing. Baba had, as Avatar had decided that this accident should take place in America on that particular day. And this is all about the divine Leela. So this is what we learn from beloved Baba's life, that nothing happens by, Baba says, whatever happens, happens because of my will. So if whatever things happen in our life also, we should always take as Baba's will and accept them without any complaint. Something good comes, we say thank you Baba. Something bad comes, then also we say thank you Baba. I would conclude, I think I am exceeding my given time, but I would like to conclude with one other small event which took place during this period. We all know Jal Kerawala was an ardent devotee of beloved Baba. Jal was a government servant, and in many Baba's seclusions, other things, Angarishi Pahad seclusion, Jal was a great help. Jal made all the arrangements for this seclusion. So Jal, on 29th March 1952, Jal was in Nagpur and Baba sent him a telegram asking him to come to Mehrabad immediately. Now Jal was a government official, he had many important works, but the moment he got Baba's call, he left aside everything else and rushed back to Mehrabad. He came, met Baba, Baba embraced him, and Jal was wondering what sort of work Baba has. So Baba asked him, can you give me 400 rupees? And Jal immediately gave the money to Baba, and then Jal started wondering why Baba called me all the way from Nagpur when he just wanted 400 rupees. If he had informed me, I would have sent this money immediately. Anyhow, Jal did not, he said, okay, whatever God has done, then Baba asked him to go back to Nagpur. And as it may happen, on 6th October 1952, Jal had a heart attack and died. So this was his last visit to Baba, and Baba probably knew what is going to happen, so Baba gave Jal an opportunity to come and meet him. This is what Avatar does, So that is what I say, whatever happens in our life is determined by our God, and as he says, it happens because of will, nothing happens without his will. So now I hope next 2 days all of you enjoy the various presentations that will be given here and have a wonderful share of the treasure left to us by beloved Baba. Jai Baba, Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। We are all gathered today, not at Mehrabad, but at our own individual places. So, this seems to be a new kind of gathering, which is in the conventional terminology cannot be called as a gathering, but it is a gathering in terms of divine love. Beloved Baba seems to enjoy always causing some changes in the set pattern of creation. This fact we can trace in the entire life of beloved Baba, that there are so many changes in his plans that it is difficult to keep track of these changes and also to decipher the significance behind these changes. The Library Committee of Avatar Meher Baba Trust has been organizing these legacy programs for the last 10 years or more, and we became tuned to see that his lovers are gathered at one place and various presentations based on beloved Baba's life and work were made before them in various styles. Some were films, some videos, some PowerPoint presentations, and various kinds of discussions to which the attending audience was found glued and enjoyed these deliberations. But with the coronavirus pandemic, we are forced to adopt totally new system of this decade-old program. Now we are gathering in his love in totally different way, but still we are trying to deliberate upon some of the important events of his life and work during 1952-53. We are prone to evaluate every event of his life as one of the most important activity. But if we try to understand different phases of his life with unbiased mind, then we would find that none of his work is of lesser importance than any other work. With this view, Baba's activities during 1952-53 for the purpose of this year's program may be called as the most important activities, but in fact, these activities are just part of that big picture which is represented by whole life. One of the most important facts that is to be noted by us with reference to Baba's life and work is that all activities of his life have futuristic impact, whereas the activities of we mortals end with our life. This can be very well illustrated by Baba's own statement, which he repeatedly gave on 30th January 1969 when he said, "Remember this, I am not this body." So presence or absence of his body does not change in any way the results of his doing, because his avataric mission is gradually unfolded and understood by the humanity with passage of time. In early 1952, beloved Baba concluded his new life phase by ending the Man-o-nash phase. According to him, this marked the end of new life, and he again entered into a life phase which was neither old life nor the new life, but it was something, a fresh phase of activities beginning with complicated free life, which was followed by free life and fiery free life. As a novice Baba lover, some 50 years ago, I actually avoided to read the details of these activities since they were very difficult for me to understand at that time. But now, while organizing this program, I have to keep my heart and soul awake to understand some of the valuable aspects of this particular phase. During our deliberations of this program, the scholars would be deliberating upon these aspects and trying to focus our attention on the deeper values of this phase. What we can say is this: more inner aspects of Baba's working are manifested, little more grows our love for him. Not because our relationship is based on these revelations, but our love is based on the understanding of our own limitations. More we know about his work, more is our love, because we then sympathize with our own selves that why not we have understood these things before. All of us in some way or the other enjoy Baba's literature, but it is always related to our comfort zone. Either we go through the literature sitting on the sofa or lying down on a cozy bed. But I have experienced this that this comfort zone reading is not fully registered and remembered. But when we attend such programs like this, when our attention is more focused and we absorb the deliberations in a more effective way. From this angle, these programs are valuable and they give us a chance to absorb the facts in a more effective as well as lasting way. Another thing which appears by having a comparative advantage of the two types of programs which we have seen over the years. The first 10 programs of this series were in the physical presence of the audience, and also majority of presenters were physically present. When we sit in an audience, then that also has an impact over our alertness and the capacity to absorb the delivered facts. In such a situation, we are more active and alert, but this online program may not offer such an effective medium. Thus, there may be some changes, but whatever may be this style of the presentation and gathering, at least we are fortunate enough to be in a Baba program. In the physical presence of the audience, the number was always very limited, but this online program may be available to many more Baba lovers who will be benefited from the meaningful deliberations. The interesting correlation that we can make between these two situations is that when lovers were physically present, the doors of the Samadhi were open and lovers mainly came to have Baba's darshan in the Samadhi and to be in his company for a shorter or longer time. And at the same time, they attended the program here at Mirabad. But now, to add to the significance of this online program, Baba's Samadhi has become a sort of out of bounds which is not allowing any of us to enter into the Samadhi and bow down at his feet. This information is making us contented with the realization that though we may not be near Samadhi, we may not enter into the Samadhi, and we may be deprived of bowing down at his feet, still we are in his company through this online program. In 1969, through the April-June Great Darshan, Baba has implanted a totally new kind of seat in our hearts of his lovers. He invited them for this special darshan by telling them in advance that now they have to bring him in his heart for his darshan. This was the indication that the advantage of physical proximity would be withdrawn and substituted by a feeling of his constant presence in the hearts of his lovers. Same thing is probably repeated through these online programs, that we have to feel that Baba is in our hearts and he is with us wherever we may be. We may not be near his Samadhi, but he is near our hearts. So probably this is a new gift beloved Baba is bestowing upon his lovers through this so-called challenge created coronavirus pandemic. Beloved Baba never ever can keep away from his lovers, but he always brings out some new way to be more close to his lovers and be enshrined in their hearts, which is his actual Samadhi. 1952-53 period has much more activities than what can be put in this program. However, some of the presentations based on this period which are remembered most are Baba's visit to Myrtle Beach in 1952, transition from Man-o-nash phase to 1952-53 phase, summary of 1952-53, Murshida Ivy Deuce's contact with Baba and Baba's reorienting Sufism, Baba's Dehradun stay, Baba's Mast tour, highest of the high message, Baba's first automobile accident in America, Baba's reorienting science, spiritual importance of Oklahoma accident, covenant with America, Meher Baba's 1952 auto accident, Meher Baba's visit to London and Switzerland, Meher Baba's treatment at Prague, Oklahoma, and Duke University Hospital in Durham, North Carolina, and Presbyterian Hospital in New York, Baba's return journey from New York to Bombay. Baba's Darshan program in India, Andhra tour, Hamirpur visit, Nagpur and Saoner Darshan, Dictation of God Speaks, Messages at Military Beach, and so many other darshan programs in America and Europe. Besides this, the details of presentation are separately announced in the program schedule for the benefit of the global audience. Enjoy watching these presentations, which are offered with great love and dedication. We record our gratitude to all the presenters who are making this program possible. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the summary of the Free Life Phases, Meher Baba's work, 1952 to 1953. And here we see our beloved washing the feet of one of his lovers with his close mandali Pindu in the background. On the 6th of February, 1952, Baba concluded his Man-o-nash period, annihilation of the mind, with this statement: it can truly be said that God and his manifestation, and that the saints and the prayers of all those who love me have accomplished for me the internal work of Man-o-nash, while the four companions have seen to its external aspect. And here we see Baba with Gustaji, Beadle, Pindu, and Erich, the four companions of the Man-o-nash period. The beloved continued by saying that he would be visiting America in the beginning of April of the same year. Baba also defined the next phases of his work: complicated free life from the 21st March, where bindings would dominate freedom; full free life from 10th July, freedom would dominate bindings; fiery free life from 15th November, freedom and bindings would, by the grace of God, be merged into the divine life. Still exhausted from the Man-o-nash work, Baba and the Mandali left for New York from Bombay. Baba, Mera, Mani, Meru, Goher, Kitty Devi, and Reno Gailey all arrived in New York City on April 20th. Adi Sr., Sarosh, Meherji, Gustaji, and Dr. Nilu arrived 2 days later. Baba and the Mandali were the first to arrive at the Mare Spiritual Center in Myrtle Beach. Elizabeth Patterson wanted the beloved to christen the center with his presence. And here we see our beloved at Myrtle Beach Center. And here is Elizabeth Patterson and Baba also on the center. Baba had given 5 specific qualifications for the center. 1, the climate should be equable. 2, it should have more than ample water. 3, it should be virgin soil, never built upon. 4, it should be land that could be tilled. 5, it should be given from the heart. Baba's sister Mani noted that these qualifications were clues for Elizabeth Patterson's search. The virgin land was a gift from her father. Mani recalls our first impression of visiting the center. On our arrival, I felt that Baba had already been there. His presence was so strong, and I realized Baba had blessed the center long before. Every nook had so much of his presence. On the bridges, under the trees, at the beach, in the barn, by the lake. Naturally, it is the one place in the West Baba had specifically directed to be found, but he had already found it before he sent Elizabeth and Norina to look for it. And here is Mani and Mehera at Myrtle Beach. While at the center, Baba would wake up at 5 a.m. and then go to the dining hall. He wouldn't eat anything, but was attentive to everyone there. Then he would take a walk with the woman by the lake. Baba began private interviews in the lagoon cabin at 9:30 in the morning. And here we see the lagoon cabin as it is today, sitting by the freshwater lake on the Mare Spiritual Center. And to the right is Baba sitting in his chair in the lagoon cabin. And I should also note that there is still a chair there that Baba used to use, sitting in the lagoon cabin to this day. Phyllis Frederick gave this description of meeting Baba for the first time. I was alone with God, and I felt very shy but happy. I was overcome by his beauty. He spelled slowly on the board, "Any questions?" And I shook my head. But of course a deep question welled up within my heart. Why all that suffering? Why did I go through all that I did? Baba silently answered me. He took my hand. It was like holding a child's hand, or a rose. The flesh was pure, almost transparent. I could feel his blood going through me, like a blood transfusion. And I felt his suffering. He took my wrist in his hand, and I felt a mystical sense of sharing his suffering. He sharing mine. It was a wordless answer. Then I silently said to him, Baba, I always want you for my master, all the way to the end. And Baba nodded in reply, I'll be with you to the very end. He called Adi back in the room with a clap. Then he spelled out on the board, one who asks for nothing gets everything. Again he spoke of love for God as the only thing that is real, and ended by saying, your love for me is so genuine, real and pure, that I am deeply touched. Do you know why you love me? Because I love you. Okay, here we see Phyllis Frederick standing second from the left next to Adele Walken. So from left to right, there's Adele Walken, Phyllis Frederick, Mani Irani, Rita Sparky Lukes, Charmin Deuce, Baba, Mera, Delia De Leon, and Meru Irani. Litris Shaw gave this description. He allowed me to look deep, and it was as if I were looking deep into the unknown. I kept looking without looking away, looking forever without coming to an end, looking far, far behind. As a result of looking into his eyes, I experienced Baba as the fathomless, colorless beauty of light. It was as if I were boring into Baba. I'd always craved beauty in all forms, dancing, etc. And now Baba showed me real beauty so that I could see things in proper perspective. And pictured here is Litris Shaw. She's actually the daughter of Darwin Shaw, who came down with her family. Large events were held in the barn. You can see Adi Gairani on the left, and then Erich on the far right. Before leaving the Mayor Spiritual Center, Baba made sure that Elizabeth Patterson had all our papers and insurance in order for the upcoming journey in her car, following the route of the Cherokee Trail of Tears. Here is the Trail of Tears on which one of many displaced tribes of native Indians traveled on a brutal journey a century before. So you can see they started out in North Carolina and passed through Tennessee, Arkansas, to the final destination, Oklahoma. And here we are at Prague, Oklahoma, home of the Native American star athlete Jim Thorpe, and you see the mural on the right dedicated to him. Baba had foretold that he would shed blood on American soil. They stayed the night in the Ozarks in a hotel, then headed out on Route 64. The roads were wet and slippery. In Prague, on the 24th of May, Baba ordered Elizabeth to drive faster and faster, up to 90 miles per hour. At 10:15 in the morning, a car approached them on the wrong side of the road, and Baba's car crashed into the oncoming car. Baba was the only passenger in the car who shed any blood. Baba's left arm and leg were broken. The Avatar's blood was flowing freely onto the soft soil. The entire left side of the Divine Beloved's body was severely damaged. If the ground was harder, his injuries would have been a lot worse. Mara was thrown out of the car and suffered severe injuries to her skull. Elizabeth Patterson was driving, was also thrown out of the car. She suffered with fractured arms, wrist, ribs, and collarbone. Meru was thrown out of the car, suffering a fractured left arm and fingers on her left hand. Mani was asleep in the back seat and seemed unhurt. Mara recalled that somehow Baba was able to ask her if she was hurt, not wanting to put any extra burden on her beloved. She said, "No, Baba, I am not hurt. It is not serious at all." Then she put her hand on her forehead to hide her wound from him. Mara slipped into unconsciousness, where she remained for a period of days. Exactly how long is unknown. The approaching car was driven by a double amputee and veteran of the Korean War. It was a modified car that he was driving for the first time. Neither he nor the two other passengers were hurt. They brought Baba and the Mandali to the one doctor in town. Dr. Burroughs was very impressed by Baba keeping silent through his suffering. Baba spelled out on the alphabet board, "You must understand that this was God's will, and it will result in benefit to the whole world." Baba remained under the good doctor's care for 12 days. The helpless and hopeless phase of the complicated free life was in full play. And this image is of Velma Davis, head nurse, Jess Dobbs, lab technician, and Dr. Ned Burleson, who treated Baba and the woman at the Prague hospital. Dr. Burleson was so taken by Baba, Mara recalled that he became a Baba lover. From a letter of Dr. Burleson's. "From you and your party, we have seen a demonstration of most of the teachings of Christ. Many Americans preach these things, but we have never observed so close an application of them. The profound devotion to you, which is demonstrated by all your party, convinces us that you deserve all of it." Such devotion cannot be forced. It can only be obtained by love. And to have that demonstrated affection from so many wonderful people is almost unbelievable. We are not accustomed to dealing with people who appreciate our efforts as you do, and the manifestation of that appreciation leaves us very humble, with the feeling that we do not deserve it, because we realize our limitations and faults. And this picture is of Dr. Burroughs reading the Awakener magazine, the actual issue pertaining to the car accident in Prague. My blood is shed only for those who continue to remember it, and who experience love for the beloved. My suffering will be their pain, which will always keep them with me. The blood is a sign of my love for the world. America is mine, and by suffering for it, I'm giving it love, so that it may keep its head bowed to me. After Baba and the Mandali were all taken care of and fit to travel, they returned to Elizabeth Patterson's home, Upont Dunes and Myrtle Beach. Baba and Mani rode side by side in one ambulance. And here is Upont Dunes, not too far from the Mare Spiritual Center in Myrtle Beach. On the 13th of June, Baba gave a message to his lovers around the world. The personal disaster for some years foretold by me at last happened while crossing the American continent, causing me through facial injuries, a broken leg and broken arm, much mental and physical suffering. It was necessary that it should happen in America. God willed it so. It brings to fruition the first part of the circular, which said that until July 10th, in the complicated free life, weakness would dominate strength and bindings would dominate freedom. But from July 10th, in my full free life, strength would dominate weakness and freedom would dominate bindings. And then from November 15th, in my fiery free life, both strength and weakness, freedom and bindings, would be consumed in the fire of divine love. The consuming of freedom and bindings means that there is a complete blending of the God state and the man state, so that the one does not live through opposition to the other, and there can be no question of the one encroaching upon the other. The complicated free life ended on the 10th of July. The beloved gave this poem. Bruised and battered, but not beaten, Baba greets his July 10th freedom, dominating binding, weakness overcome by strength. And here is Baba with Gustaji and Socia, Adi Keirani, and Meherji Kakaria, August 1952. Baba traveled up to New York and was met by Ivy O'Deuce, who took them up to the home of Kate Ferris in Scarsdale, just north of New York City. It was the first time his lovers had seen their beloved since the car accident. Baba encouraged them not to be sad, spelling out to them, God is always light-hearted, even when crucified. The accident is of little importance. The only important thing is to see God everywhere and in everyone, and to become one with Him. The goal of life is to know God, the Infinite One, and everyday life, and all this existence is to gain that goal. Full free life, freedom dominates binding. Baba met with many people from the New York group, including Fred and Ella Winterfeld, who started the group, and who are pictured here to the right. Ivy O'Deuce readily agreed to the use of her home in Scarsdale in Westchester County, New York. While in Scarsdale, the work on the Sufism reoriented charter was worked on with Baba, Ivy O'Deuce, and her daughter Charmin. Baba indicated they would have no direct connection to the Mare Spiritual Center. Baba also asked the center to be cooperative with the Sufis, which would be under his guidance. And here we see Ivy O'Deuce to the left of Baba and her daughter Charmin on the right. From New York, Baba went to London and then to Zurich and Locarno and Switzerland, where he was still in recuperation. And here is Baba in Locarno, August 1952. In London and Switzerland, Mera consulted some plastic surgeons. At one point, surgery was recommended for a wound on her forehead. Ointment was put on the wound and covered with a bandage. It healed on its own. Baba said that his suffering was all the greater due to the harm done to Mera. And here is Mera on the right around the time of the car accident. Baba returned to India on the 23rd of August and was driven from Bombay, arriving in Merazad late in the night. Baba began giving darshans in Pune in September. Baba in Pune, freedom would dominate bindings. On the fiery free life, our beloved had this to say: I am not concerned with reactions to me as an individual. They will be as various as there are individual temperaments. My sole concern in the fiery free life will be with the divine truth of my realization, which I should like to share with those who seek it. The following day, the beloved informed his close ones, from today until the 15th, I will be a devotee. This was carried on for the next 2 weeks. During the gatherings of his close ones, Baba would give a reminder that he was in the devotee role. The fiery free life, freedom and bindings would, by the grace of God, be merged into the divine life. In November, Baba had the Mandali say the names of God, and the repentance prayer was read, which was exactly a year old. Donkin then read Baba's explanation. My fiery life begins on November 15, 1952. In April 1953, the climax of the internal working of that life will be reached. An external demonstration of its entire internal working will be made manifest. In the same month also, the final and real result of the fiery life will, by God's grace, be known to the world. Of musts, Baba said, musts are jewels. They work for me and share my spiritual work. They are a great help to me. In April, they will be hailed for their work and help to me. On the 15th November, Baba took about 20 men to Bombay and contacted 21 musts. And this is just one of my favorite pictures of our beloved with his divine musts. You see Muhammad on the left looking downward, and Shariat Khan on the right, looking upward. And this is taken from a different time period. Then, on the 18th of November, the Avatar of the Age started giving many darshans to people in Bombay. This started a new era of activity for the Divine Beloved, making himself available to more people from all walks of life. The largest darshan of the fiery free life period took place in the town of Rat, in the Hamirpur district of Uttar Pradesh, on 26th of November. And here is our Divine Beloved with his lovers in Andhra. In the early morning of 24th December, Baba contacted a must, Verban Maharaj, 60 kilometers northeast of Nasik. Baba was massaging Verban's legs. The must asked him, "Why undergo so much trouble for me? You have to do great work for the world." Baba simply stated, "I am for those who love me, and those who love me are my gurus." Verban then declared, "You are the master of the universe. The village is blessed by your presence." Vurban quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, "When the flame of righteousness burns low, God descends as the avatar." Tears filled his eyes, and he continued, "Meher Baba is the real avatar. I can see him in his real form." Baba then went east to Sonor and Nagpur. It turned out our beloved had a fish to catch in his net. Veer Singh Kalchuri was 26 at the time. Prior to meeting Baba, Veer Singh had no knowledge of mysticism. However, he was known to his fellow students to be a devotional soul and was given the nickname Panditji. Veer Singh became restless and lost interest in his studies. He was hoping to go to the Himalayas and live with a Swami near Rishikesh. He heard of Baba on the way to see his family to settle his affairs. Veer Singh finally had his darshan. Baba asked him what he did. He was studying for examinations for his master's degree. He hoped to come stay with him. Baba asked if he would obey him. "I have come with that preparedness." The beloved then asked him, "If I tell you to go about naked, begging, would you do it?" To which Veer Singh readily agreed. Baba then told him to take his exam and then come to him wherever he is. Veer Singh did come to Baba and served him faithfully up to the end of his life. Baba gave him the name Bao. And here to the right is Val Kachuri around that same time period. Baba went to Upasani Maharaj's tomb in Sikori. He was greeted by Godavari Mai, who wanted to touch his feet. Baba put his hand out to prevent her from any prostrations. Baba paid his respects to Upasani's tomb by putting his forehead on the shrine. The Mandali did likewise. Baba gestured, "Maharaj is here," pointing at himself, and not there. Baba then took the Mandali to the spot where Upasani Maharaj first spoke to Baba as the avatar. And pictured here is Godavari Mai with Baba. Baba also began a 10-day darshan tour in the Hamirpur district of Uttar Pradesh. The Divine Beloved declared that Hamirpur is my heart. Baba informed his lovers that he had no association with politics in all religions. He appreciated all faiths and the many isms they represented, but was not bound to any of them. The Beloved continued, "For the absolute truth, while equally including them, transcends all of them, and leaves no room for separate divisions, which are all equally false. The unity of all life is integral and indivisible. It remains unassailable and inviolable, in spite of all conceivable ideological differences." "I am equally approachable to one and all, big and small, to saints who rise and sinners who fall, through all the various paths that give the divine call. I am approachable alike to saint whom I adore, and to sinner whom I am for, and equally through Sufism, Vedanta, Christianity, or Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism, and other isms of any kind, and also directly through no medium of isms at all." Also in Hamirpur, Baba told people gathered before him that he had been at that town in a previous advent. The Divine Beloved became very still and gently moved his fingers, indicating he was working on the inner planes. The surrounding area became very quiet. Then a bird began to sing. The period of inner and outer stillness came to an end. At a darshan at Delhi University, Baba gave this discourse: "The purpose of life is to realize our oneness with the infinite. This can be achieved through love for God. Divine love makes us true to ourselves and to others. It makes us live honestly, comprehending that God Himself is infinite honesty. Divine love is the solution to all our difficulties. It frees us from every kind of binding. It makes us speak truly, think truly, and act truly. It makes us feel one with the whole universe. Divine love purifies our heart and glorifies our being. I give you my love and blessings. In Andhra, which Baba said represented his mind, a low-caste Harijan, God's people, was very sad about the fact that he was not permitted to come to Baba's darshan, which was only for the Brahmin caste. He cried out, "How unfortunate I am that when God is so near, I am unable to take his darshan." Baba felt the poor man's soul crying out to him and came to him directly. Only the beloved knows how deeply he touched him. Baba also gave this message at a large darshan in Andhra. I feel very happy to be among you all today. My message since ages and from eternity without beginning has been of love. God alone is real, and to know Him we must love Him. God resides in us all equally, and He wants silent love within. We can love Him also by loving our fellow beings, and if we love God honestly, all our doubts, worries, and anxieties of ages vanish. Baba contacted a 90-year-old High Must in Uttar Pradesh. He had met Totapuri before, who was deep into a divine state. Baba was traveling as an ordinary companion. When the beloved touched Totapuri's feet, the Must cried out, "God exists! God is! It is God!" Dr. Deshmukh accidentally revealed Baba's name. Baba was very upset by this and scolded the good doctor. It was critical for the beloved to do his universal work in secret, unknown to the general public. Baba said forcefully, "You are spoiling my work by praising me to others. You do not help me, but kill me." Dr. Deshmukh at Baba's feet some years later. Then there was another setback to the Avatar's work, the death of his faithful servant, Jal Dastoor, delaying the expected climax of April 1953 to approximately July 11th to October 16th. The Divine Beloved also asked the Mandali not to concern themselves with the work's outcome. In Dehradun, on the 7th of September, the anniversary of Zarathustra's birth, the Divine Beloved gave his highest of the high message, which started with these words: "Consciously or unconsciously, directly or indirectly, each and every creature, each and every human being strives to assert individuality. When eventually man consciously experiences that he is infinite, eternal, and indivisible, he is fully conscious of his individuality as God and experiences infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss. Thus man becomes God and is recognized as a perfect master, Sadguru, or Kutub. The avatar is always one and the same, because God is always one and the same, the eternal, indivisible, infinite one, who manifests himself in the form of man as the avatar, as the Messiah, as the prophet, as the ancient one, the highest of the high. This eternally one and the same avatar repeats his manifestation from time to time in different cycles, adopting different human forms and different names in different places to reveal truth in different garbs and different languages, in order to raise humanity from the pit of ignorance and free it from the bondage of delusions. And I will close this presentation with Baba's essential quote: "Do not try to understand me, just love me." And I have some people to thank. The authors of Lord Mayor, Balkachuri for original Hindi, Fair and Working Buckswala English translation, compiled and edited by Lawrence Ryder and David Fenster. Mehera, interview book with Mani Irani. The God Man, C.B. Purdom. Glimpses of the God Man, Meher Baba by Bal Natu. My Life with Meher Baba, The Avatar of the Age by Mirwan B. Jesawala. And Mehera Meher, A Divine Romance, Volume 3, David Fenster. And lordmayor.org, that's David Fenster's website. Images are copyright Meher Baba Perpetual Public Charitable Trust, Meher Nazar Publications, that's mnpublications.zenfolio.com, David Fenster, and meherbabatravels.com, that's Anthony Zois's website. And thank you all for coming and listening. Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai Baba. My topic today is entitled The Transition from Man-o-nash to Life. What was the Avatar doing in 1952? Last year in this legacy program, a lot of the focus of presentations, including my own, was on the new life, culminating in Man-o-nash. During the period after Man-o-nash, Baba seems to have been moving towards a declaration of his avatarhood, which he did in Hamirpur in February 1954. So the topic that I'm looking at here is what was Baba doing in that interlude between the end of Man-o-nash and the declaration of his avatarhood? I have a slide here, a timeline of this whole period. This, I would think, is how many people would understand this period of 4 or 5 years in Baba's advent. Before the new life, Baba seems in general to have played the role of a Sadguru, or a perfect master. Most people thought of him as such. From time to time, there would be indications of his avatarhood, but he was kind of a traditional Indian master. During the new life, it would seem, this is being interpretive here, that as the avatar, he renounced that role. He stepped down from that traditional role and became an ordinary man. He really and truly became that, an ordinary seeker of God, I would say, and played through that role during the first 9 months of the new life or so, from October 16th, 1949, as you can see on the timeline, for until about May or so of the next year. He appears to have been trying to play out that role with a group of companions, but it doesn't seem that Baba was satisfied with the way that the new life was being lived. And over the next year, it seems to me that he essentially lived the new life himself, with the help of servant companions, as they were called. But then from June of 1951, Baba began to undertake what he called Man-o-nash, or the annihilation of the mind. At that time, he gave this really interesting talk at Hyderabad in June 1951 about the great paths to God, Gyan, Karma, and Bhakti, knowledge, action, and devotion, and how they were essentially impossible. And thus, against that background, how I understand this, he as the avatar was taking on for everyone, as an ordinary seeker of God, the task of annihilating the mind, which was accomplished by February 1952, and Baba was happy with that. And so how I've always understood this is that kind of set the background then for his being able to declare himself to be the avatar, having himself, on behalf of everyone in creation, performed that act as a seeker of annihilating the mind. That's how I've always understood it. Now, the question that comes up in my mind is, why did it take him 2 years from the conclusion of the successful completion of Man-o-nash to a declaration of his avatarhood? What was he doing then? And if we were to look at his messages on this subject, and these are the 3 great circulars on that topic in this slide, where he gives some explanation of it. It seems that Baba was engaged in the establishment of what he called life. So he went from the new life to life. So the question, the matter that I'm looking at here is, what does this mean? Why did he need to establish himself in life? Now, these great circulars, here's an image of the first of them, and I'm just showing it, Man-o-nash, it's entitled, on February 6, 1952, because it's truly one of the great immortal messages of Baba's entire Advent. It would be well worth it to spend this entire session just reading it. It is so great. So I'm going to read a few snippets here and there. God is everywhere and does everything. God is within us and knows everything. God is without us and sees everything. God is beyond us and is everything. The one all-pervading, all-comprehending, all-powerful God, who is the self of ourselves, and besides whom nothing is real, has helped me and guided me during the Man-o-nash period of my work, and now makes me dictate to you the following. And I'll read a few more lines here. To try to understand with the mind that which the mind can never understand is futile, and to try to express by sounds of language in form of words the transcendental states of the soul is even more futile. All that can be said and has been said and will be said by those who live and experience that state is that when the false self is lost, the real self is found, that the birth of the real can only follow the death of the false, and that dying to ourselves, the true death which ends all dying, is the only way to perpetual life. And Baba continues, as I say, it's really quite a magnificent statement. And here's the end of that section. I'll read a few more lines here. Unless and until ignorance is removed and knowledge is gained, the knowledge whereby the divine life is experienced and lived, everything pertaining to the spiritual seems paradoxical. Now listen to this. This is so great. God, whom we do not see, we say is real, and the world that we do see, we say is false. In experience, that which exists for us does not really exist, and that which does not exist for us really exists. That's the human predicament. We must lose ourselves in order to find ourselves. Thus, loss itself is gain. We must die to self to live in God. Thus, death means life. We must become completely void inside to be completely possessed by God. Thus, complete emptiness is absolute fullness. We must become naked of selfhood by possessing nothing, so as to become absorbed in the infinity of God. Thus, nothing means everything. One of the really great messages about the human predicament, the human condition, which is the life we lead, which I think Baba's life phase was meant to address. And now this is what Baba said about where he was at this time. And I'm reading right on in this message. He said he's tried his best to achieve Man-o-nash and feels that he's been successful. This satisfaction it seems to me, essential to what life was for Baba. This satisfaction is due to the feeling that I have of having regained my old life Meher Baba state, yet retaining my new life ordinary state. I have regained the knowledge, strength, and greatness that I had in the old life, and retained the ignorance, weakness, and humility of the new life. This union of the old and new life states has given birth to life, life that is eternally old and new. That's the phase that Baba seems to have been living out for this year and a half. And there's so much that could be said about it. But one of the things I notice is that in the messages that Baba gave at this time, in their circulars 1, 3, and 5, life circulars, all delve into this and explore this from different perspectives. Baba is not yet speaking as God. He doesn't say I. He says, I leave it to the sanction and to the decree of God, as though he was still separate from God, even though he just said he's regained the old life Meher Baba state along with the new life state of helplessness and humility. So this is what I was trying to puzzle out. And my interpretation of it's like a donkey trying to sing, to try to understand the life of the avatar. Nonetheless, my understanding of this is that part of the work of that life phase was to truly and completely integrate those two, the old life Meher Baba with the new life Meher Baba. And at the end of that, he could indeed declare, I am the Ancient One, the highest of the high. And in the first person say, my will governs the universe. It was to bring about that integration that this whole phase of work was carried out. So here are a couple of his statements over the period of these 3 or 4 months. And these were the 3 parts of life, as he called it, that he engaged in. I'll read these out. He declared this in his circular in March, the life circular number 5. So again, he went from new life circulars to life circulars. These were the 3 phases of life that he proposed to carry out. First was the complicated free life, in which binding dominates freedom. Baba said he would start that from March 21st, 1952. That would be followed by the full free life, in which freedom dominates binding. This is from July 15th. And the fiery free life, in which both binding and freedom will be merged into the divine life. This was from November 15th, 1952, running for about 6 months or so. By the way, it did so happen during the complicated free life, Baba had his automobile accident in America. That certainly was complicated, and he shattered bones and went through all the ordeal of that accident. And the fiery free life, starting in November, Baba launched his tour of Andhra and Hamirpur, where people went wild. He had huge crowds, and the basic group of his body of his lovers was established starting in that period. Now, the question that one would ask is, if he annihilated his mind in Man-o-nash, why did he need to have a complicated free life? I thought all of that was gone. And then why did he have, where binding dominates freedom, and a full free life in which freedom dominates binding? Here's what Francis Brabazon had to say about that on this slide I'm calling up, where he's reviewing this. Ho, says my fool, if free bindings dominated freedom, how could it be a free life? If freedom dominated bindings, bindings still trailing, freedom would not be free. This is his fool speaking. Listen, sweet fool, God is not false. He may allow bindings to bind him, but he is not bound. He may exert freedom over binding, but this is not his freedom. He wears loosely both freedom and binding. His bondage in us is our deliverance in him, and our binding in him is our freedom from ourselves. What Francis is expressing there, an understanding of this, is I feel that in life, this is my present understanding of something utterly beyond the understanding of donkeys. But speaking as a donkey, is the Avataric act that Baba was performing through this life phase. That as the avatar, he had to both have the avataric consciousness of Sahaj Samadhi, that is, of knowing himself as God and knowing everything and everyone. But at the same time, he had to have the actual experience of his creatures who are really and truly in ignorance. That is, he could not just act as though he was in ignorance, he really and truly had to be in ignorance. I think that's what he meant when he said he was combining his old life with his new life, Meher Baba states. It's an unimaginable state, how you can be infinitely knowing and at the same time really and truly ignorant. But a lot of his statements on this seem to indicate that. This life was an avataric life of all of this at the same time, the infinite knowledge of God and the infinite ignorance of his creatures. And thus, when complications, when bindings dominate freedom, well, his creatures experience that. When this is not the real freedom either, when freedom dominates binding, as Francis Brabazon said, that's relative freedom, not the real and true freedom, and his creatures can come to experience that. But when both freedom and bondage are consumed in the fire of divine love, in the fiery free life, that leads to the divine life. So I feel that Baba was playing out all of that, both in his avataric consciousness and in the consciousness of his ignorant creatures. So that is why he had to actually do that himself. And at the end of having done that, then he could declare in the first person, I am the Ancient One, the highest of the high. That's why 2 years had to be devoted to this work of actually establishing the divine life after the conclusion of Man-o-nash. So I'll read just a couple of Baba's little statements on this topic. Here is where Baba was talking about Man-o-nash and the divine sanction and the divine decree. Baba said, my efforts for Man-o-nash have been positive, and the result of Man-o-nash will be positive. But the actual and concrete manifestation of this result, I leave entirely to the divine sanction. Where, how, and when the result will be, I leave entirely to the divine decree. So you see, Baba's talking as though he's not really God. He's leaving it to God, as though that's someone separate from him. So here is his statement about the 3 lives. He said, I expect to lead a complicated free life from March 21st, a full free life from July 10th, and a fiery free life from November 15th. And then here is from his circular on the 5th circular. Baba talks about the 3 free lives, and then he gives a description, an enumeration of the great paths to God that seem like they are for all of humanity, not just for his lovers. After this, he gave many messages for his lovers particularly about how to grow in their love for him. This doesn't seem to me to be that. It's almost like as the avatar, having established the divine life through this life phase, he's outlining the eternal perennial high roads to God, which are these. And the first of them is indeed devotion to him as the avatar. This is the last thing I'll have to say in this talk. He says, first and foremost, our complete surrender to the God-man, in whom God reveals himself in his full glory, his infinite power, his unfathomable knowledge, his inexpressible bliss, and his eternal existence. So the God-man is the avatar specifically. That path is always there. But then he outlines these other high roads. Should this complete surrender not be possible, then one or some of the following, if faithfully carried out, can win the grace of God. And then he lists 6 of these. First, wholehearted love for God, thirst for seeing him, longing for knowing him, and a burning desire for union with him constitutes this all-consuming love for which the lover forsakes everything, including himself. This is like what some of the musts were experiencing. 2, keeping constant company of saints and lovers of God and rendering to them wholehearted service. It's another of the perennial paths. 3, guarding of the mind against temptations of lust, greed, anger, hatred, power, fame, and fault-finding. This is kind of a negative path, avoiding these great beasts and monsters. 4, absolute and complete renunciation, whereby one leaves everyone and everything, and in solitude devotes oneself to prayer, fasting, and meditation. These are like yogis or ascetics. 5, living in the world and yet practicing complete internal renunciation. This means attending to all worldly duties without attachment, knowing all to be an illusion and only God to be real, carrying out one's worldly affairs with a pure heart, clean mind, and living the life of a recluse in the midst of intense activity. And then the last one, selfless service. One who practices this thinks not of himself, but of the happiness of others, serves others with no thought of gain or reward, never allows the mind to be upset or disappointed, and facing all odds and difficulties, cheerfully sacrifices his welfare for the good of others. This is the life of a selfless worker. So these are like 6 perennial paths to God for all humanity, whether they're personal devotees of Avatar Meher Baba or not. And so the way that I understand this, from the beginning of the new life, where he became a seeker, to the annihilation of mind in Man-o-nash, then he had to really and truly establish the divine life that entailed not just his being Avatar and knowing everything and being one in consciousness with everyone. It wasn't just that. It also entailed becoming the ignorant, helpless, pathetic creature of himself. And actually and truly being that and living all of that at the same time. He could speak in this voice and say, these are the eternal perennial paths to God for everyone. And then in Mahiwa in February 10th, 1954, up in Hamirpur, before his poor, simple, mad lovers there, he could say, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, I am the Ancient One, the highest of the high. Jai Baba.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Our thanks to Gokaran Shrivastava and the others who have made this 11th Legacy program on discovering the Avataric treasure possible. The title of my presentation is The Personal Approach to God, Reflections on Meher Baba's First Visit to his home in the West. The scope of the talk is to examine the events and Baba's messages that spring, specifically with regard to the relationship between God and the individual, in what I term the personal as opposed to the organizational approach to God. Nothing is more personal than the inner life of the heart and our homes we create to nurture that experience. Abode or home is at the heart of Baba's vision for Myrtle Beach from the beginning. In his acceptance cable to Elizabeth Patterson, Baba states this vision. He writes, "I'm happy to find in all your letters about Myrtle Beach everything that I personally and spiritually approve of and sanction. All my lovers should cooperate to make Myrtle Beach the spiritual abode for one and all." Abode is a place to abide, literally a place of waiting. In this case, spiritual waiting. However, the purpose is not passive waiting, but proactive work to awaken all to Baba's message of love and truth. Baba's spring messages on completing his Man-o-nash work, commencing his life phase, and announcing his complicated free life, all give direct guidance to this personal approach to God, specifically in the case of Myrtle Beach, with respect to the paradigm of home. We can envision the Avataric treasure as God revealing himself more and more in our hearts and in our homes, thus emphasizing this personal approach. It is underscored by the importance of Baba's home throughout this Advent, but specifically during the critical period of World War II, when both his permanent homes, Meherazad and Meher Spiritual Center, at the same time were established and first occupied. This is also the case in the current world situation. The pandemic has transformed our perspective on home and how the world functions. The lockdowns have closed places of worship and curtailed freedom of normal human associations. We have been forced to look to the solace of our own hearts to ground ourselves in order to deal with the circumstances we face, especially with regard to home and family. We have had to reassess priorities, and while challenging, this has enriched our lives, especially for the older generation who generally have less external responsibilities. Just what is the import of Baba establishing his homes during World War II? Meher Spiritual Center and Meherazad both were acquired and occupied at the pivotal point of World War II, just before D-Day, when the Allies were in dire straits worldwide. Baba stated in 1943 that, quote, "For my work," unquote, he needed to take up residence with a close women mandali in Pimplegown. He did so on April 10th, 1944. A few weeks earlier, Elizabeth had received promise of the land for the center from her father. She advised Baba and began building cabins. Baba was deeded the land to Meherazad in mid-April, and Elizabeth was deeded the land for the center in mid-May. On June 1st, Elizabeth, Narina, and a few other close ones began occupying the cabins for most of June. On June 4th, Elizabeth sends a letter formally offering the center to Baba. June 6th is D-Day, the turning point of the war. As the Battle of Kurukshetra was to Krishna and Arjuna, World War II was to Baba's advent and to the role of the Eastern and Western women mandali. Baba equated the blue bus to Krishna's chariot, and it was the women that rode in the bus, and it was Elizabeth that often drove the bus. Baba, working through his homes, highlights the love and devotion of women and the role of home in this Advent. Home or abode is a place of waiting, or in Baba's words for Mayor Spiritual Center, rest and renewal. But it is not passive, but active in its purpose. This is just illustrated by Myrtle Beach's role in World War II. Not only was it home to an Army Air Force training base, but there was a German prisoner of war camp several miles from the center. But most significant is that both Churchill and Roosevelt took rest and recuperation in Myrtle Beach area at pivotal points related to their roles in the war. Days after Baba's first trip to America, Churchill arrived on a lecture tour, warning of Adolf Hitler just before he became Chancellor of Germany. Shortly after his first lecture, Churchill was in a severe car accident. It was the lowest point of his career, politically and financially. He was severely depressed. Before continuing his tour, he took rest at the retreat and home of his friend Bernard Baruch in the Myrtle Beach area. Invigorated, he goes on to complete his lecture tour. So too, beginning on Easter Sunday, 1944, Roosevelt, in very poor health, comes for 1 month of rest and recuperation at the home of Bernard Baruch, who was a friend and advisor to the president. The next day is the day that Baba first took up residence at Marizad, and preparations were underway by Elizabeth at Mayor Spiritual Center. During this period, heads of states and generals also came into the area of Baba's universal work to plan the D-Day invasion. Thus, while Baba's home is a place of rest and spiritual waiting, it is also active in his universal work. Further, the emphasis is on personal, on the individual. Both in Andhra and in Myrtle Beach, he will later emphasize the importance of the individual heart when he states, "My center is in the heart of every lover. Every lover with a heart that loves Baba is a center." Let us now look at the events and Baba's messages in the spring of 1952 to see how they give guidance to the individual and emphasize the importance of the personal approach to God, specifically with regard to his home in the West. Immediately prior to coming to Myrtle Beach, Baba completed his Man-o-nash work at Marizad, then initiated his life phase, and then gave his complicated free life message. All had direct bearing on Mayor Spiritual Center. We will examine these in order as to their relevance to Baba's vision for Mayor Spiritual Center and Myrtle Beach. Besides their co-origination, there are many parallels between Marizad and Mayor Spiritual Center. Perhaps most importantly, the completion of Baba's Man-o-nash work is fulfilled not just at Marizad, but also at Myrtle Beach. As stated in a letter from Baba to Elizabeth in October of 1951, after she confirmed to Baba all conditions for his visit to the center had been met, Baba states, "In order that the results of my work from October 16, 1951 to February 1952 may be fully manifested in the Western world, either with the fullest success or as an utter failure, I must be in seclusion for the first 2 weeks of my stay in America. We will consider 2 main points regarding his Man-o-nash work. 1, his work with the major religions of the world, and 2, his manifestation being the result of his Man-o-nash work. First, considering religion. In completing his Man-o-nash work on January 31st, 1952, Baba stated, "From now on, I free myself from external religious ceremonies that I observed during the New Life and Man-o-nash period." On a piece of paper Baba had given to Erich, Baba had written, "All rites, rituals, and ceremonies of all the religions of the world are hereby consumed in flames." Baba took the note from Erich, tore it up, and threw it in the Duni fire. The results of this action regarding the religions of the world is directly linked to Baba's visions for Mayor Spiritual Center and his actions and statements during his first visit in 1952. On July 5th at the center, in a letter to Ivy Deuce, Baba stated, "Mayor Center on the Lakes, Myrtle Beach, is not a Sufi, Vedantic, Buddhist, Christian, or Zoroastrian center. It is the Baba Center based on universality." Let us explore the ramifications of this in the context of Baba's home and the personal and organizational approaches to God as they unfolded in Baba's 1952 visit, which was actually 2 visits, first personal and the second organizational. The first visit had 2 parts. Part 1 was 2 weeks of seclusion that included not just his Man-o-nash work, but simultaneously excursions to entertainment spots in Myrtle Beach with Mara and the women. Mani's diary reports going with Baba to the zoo, a drive-in movie, a children's amusement park, and included a trip to Brook Green Gardens, 35 miles south. We can say, as he completed his Man-o-nash work, he also made himself at home on the center and in the area called Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand. In part 2 of his visit, for the next 20 days, he personally met with his lovers, including meetings open to the general public, well attended because of Elizabeth's prominence in the community. The second visit was after the accident in Prague, Oklahoma. While recuperating in Myrtle Beach, Baba was occupied with organizational work regarding the center and its relationship to Sufism reoriented and other religions, including work on their charter and the manuscript for God Speaks. On June 17th, Baba stated, "Mayor Baba is equally connected with Islam and its Sufism, Christianity and its mysticism, the Orient and its Vedantism, broad Buddhism, practical Zoroastrianism, Jainism, and many other such isms, which all speak the same divine truth and lead to the same divine goal. Mayor Baba is also detached and above all these divine paths. He has to awaken the followers of these paths to the real meaning of these isms in their true spirit by reorienting these isms, and in this capacity, he has reoriented Sufism in the charter to be universally adopted. The crux of the issue here is that there are religious organizations devoted to God, so Baba has a connection with them, but he is detached and above these divine paths. So he has directed Sufism Reoriented to be an organization to bring his message to the world religions where the charter will be adopted by all religions, evoking the image of Baba's beads on one string metaphor. At the same time, In accordance with his Man-o-nash work, he dedicates Mayer's spiritual center to be his home and not to be connected with any religion or ism, namely that it's the Baba Center based on universality. This clearly formalizes the distinction between the personal and organizational approaches. Continuing in the letter to Ivy Deuce, Baba states, Sufism reoriented American Center has no direct connection with the Mayer Center on the Lakes, Myrtle Beach. Baba asks Ivy Deuce to locate their center somewhere else in America. He states, this Sufism reoriented American Center, of which Baba is the patron, will naturally and automatically have an indirect connection with the Baba Center on the Lakes at Myrtle Beach. It will thus be independent in itself and yet have full support of Baba Center in every way. The essence of Mayer Spiritual Center is the personal approach and distinct from the organizational approach. What setting could be more personal than experiencing Baba in his home? Mayer Spiritual Center's vision statement proclaims this. Mayer Spiritual Center, Mayer Baba's home in the West, where all who come can experience his love. So while Mayer Spiritual Center focuses on the individual, Sufism Reoriented's mission is focused on other religious organizations. While Sufism Reoriented does guide the spiritual development of its members, it is specifically charged by Baba to convey to other organizations an understanding of the universal source of all religions. By virtue of his Man-o-nash work, completed for the Western world in Myrtle Beach, Mayer Spiritual Center stands for universality and for facilitating the personal connection embodied in each individual's unique experience in their heart of Baba's love and presence in his home. The distinction being made with regard to the personal approach and the organizational approach relates to the recognized authority that guides the seeker. In the personal approach, the authority recognized is the inner authority of the individual to recognize Baba as God in human form and to choose to follow him. The emphasis is on the individual and the inner voice of the heart. In the organizational approach, while members of an organization also have an inner authority, having chosen to join the order, they abridge that authority and give consent to abide by the guidance of the organization and to follow its rules as long as they are members. This does not necessarily imply that the organizational approach is impersonal. Members obviously have degrees of personal relationship with its leadership and other members, but they relate in the context of their relationship to the goals and rules of the organization. After the topic of religion, the second important consideration of Baba's Man-o-nash work here has to do with how Baba's manifestation is connected to his Man-o-nash work and to the Mayer Spiritual Center, particularly with regard to personal freedom and choice. It will require a brief digression to see how Baba's manifestation relates to Baba's working through his homes in Marizad and Myrtle Beach during World War II. Baba had been preparing Elizabeth and Narina during the Nasik Ashram and Blue Bus period for key roles in spreading his message of love and truth in the West. On June 21, 1940, Baba stated, "The present apparent world catastrophe is, by divine will, essential for a divine manifestation in the near future of love and real peace, in which I have to play the greatest part, and in which I want my men and women disciples to play corresponding parts of helping me in this my work. I definitely will speak on the 1st of August, 1941. It will be the divine word that I shall utter first, which will resurrect the dead world. In early 1941, Baba adds to this message saying, during this period, I shall lead the world affairs to the climax imperative before my manifestation in 1942, which will mark the beginning of the general adjustment of the world and bring out the subsequent unfoldment of spiritual revival. He extends to this to the West, saying, I have decided to send Narina, Nadine, and Elizabeth to the US and Margaret and Irene to Europe to spread my message there. He also clarifies that I will speak on the 1st of August, 1941, the divine word to myself and in myself. This speaking to myself operation will continue until the 15th of February, 1942, the day that I will publicly and universally speak, the day that my world manifestation will come to full expression, the day that the 6 months self-speaking operation will bring out the subsequent unfoldment of the spiritual revival. This self-speaking operation can be seen to be connected to Norina's thought transmission talks that began when she and Elizabeth arrived in America that summer to spread his message and to look for land for his center in America. Moving ahead to 1951, Baba foretells of this dramatic shift, again, about to come. Regarding the irrevocable step, quote unquote, of Man-o-nash, he states, it will bring an extraordinary revolutionary change in my life and in the lives of those who are directly and indirectly connected with me. Baba then declares in June in Hyderabad, I feel absolutely confident that God will help me to attain to the old life Meher Baba state by the 16th of February 1952 and to manifest universally. Baba now sets the stage for initiating his life phase grounded in his Man-o-nash work. This extraordinary revolutionary change is directly related to Baba's universal manifestation as reflected in his Life Circular Number 1, issued on February 6, 1952, where, having just completed his Man-o-nash work, he declares that he is totally satisfied with his Man-o-nash work and announces the import of his manifestation work to be freedom for himself and for his lovers. He states, this satisfaction is due to the feeling I have of having regained my old life Meher Baba state, yet retaining my new life ordinary state. I have regained the knowledge, strength, and greatness that I had in the old life, and retained the ignorance, weaknesses, and humility of the new life. This union of the old and new life states has given birth to life that is eternally old and new. My efforts for Man-o-nash have been positive, and the result of Man-o-nash will be positive, but the actual and concrete manifestation of this result I leave entirely to the divine sanction. Where, how, and when the result will be, I leave entirely to the divine decree. It may be at any moment, hour, month, year, or age. Although the Man-o-nash work is done fully and completely, and the result must and will definitely come 100% to my satisfaction, I now give freedom to each and all who are connected with me to choose what manner of life they henceforth wish to live. They are free either to live with me and obey my orders, or to live away from me and obey my orders. They are free either to lead the life I tell them to lead, or to lead their own lives in any way they please. That is, completely free from orders of any kind from me. No matter what choice he or she makes, everyone will share when the real freedom comes, at any moment, by the grace of God. When Baba summarizes his Man-o-nash work, the term result can be seen to refer to his manifestation as it relates to the profound freedom he has just declared for himself and his lovers. He states in part, to sum up my Man-o-nash work, point 3, the result will bring freedom to us all in proportion to our merits of love, faith, and service. Point 4, this freedom will be freedom from ignorance and will be the knowledge that we always were, are, and will be one with God. Point 5, this knowledge will make us realize and experience infinite love, power, bliss, and peace, which we always possessed and knew not. One wonders why we don't celebrate the anniversary of Baba's achievement on this day, his life day, the fulfillment and integration of his old and new life into a life of freedom. A few days later, on his birthday, according to the Zoroastrian calendar, he profoundly underscores this achievement when he states, God's blessings and my love to you all on this, my first real birthday. The tremendous import of Baba's life status that he achieved on behalf of all is conveyed in offering unprecedented freedom to his lovers, even to the degree that they are free to lead their own lives in any way they please, that is, completely free from orders of any kind from me. With freedom comes personal responsibility. We will see this play out as he proceeds to make personal contacts with both his Eastern and Western lovers during the 3 life periods. How might we consider the balance between this offer of freedom and the guidance and orders that Baba had given and continued to give? The key emphasis is on the personal approach to God and its attendant responsibilities. Baba had given many individual and general orders or guidance to his lovers. Along with this new freedom, Baba gave new guidance in his message on the first day of the complicated free life in a circular dictated on March 21st, 1952. We will see that it specifically elucidates aspects of the personal approach that is the focus of Mayor's Spiritual Center. The circular contains 3 sections. The clarification describes points already presented, and the 3rd section described instructions for Erich and Pendu on their tour of India. The 2nd section is titled The Message. My message today to those who love me and believe in my life is that in order to escape this cosmic illusion and to realize and attain the supreme reality, we must abide by the following. First and foremost, our complete surrender to the God-man, in whom God reveals himself in his full glory, his infinite power, his unfathomable knowledge, his inexpressible bliss, and his eternal existence. Should this complete surrender not be possible, then one or some of the following, if faithfully carried out, can win the grace of God. 1. Wholehearted love for God thirst for seeing him, longing for knowing him, and a burning desire for union with him constitutes this all-consuming love, for which the lover forsakes everything, including himself. 2. Keeping constant company of saints and lovers of God, and rendering them wholehearted service. 3. Guarding of the mind against temptations of lust, greed, anger, hatred, power, fame, and fault-finding. 4. Absolute and complete external renunciation, whereby one leaves everyone and everything, and in solitude devotes oneself to prayer and fasting and meditation. Living in the world and yet practicing complete internal renunciation. This means attending to all worldly duties without attachment, knowing all to be an illusion and only God to be real. Carrying out one's worldly affairs with a pure heart and clean mind, and living the life of a recluse in the midst of intense activity. 6. Selfless service. One who practices this thinks not of himself, but of the happiness of others, serves others with no thought of gain or reward, never allows the mind to be upset or disappointed, and facing all odds and difficulties, cheerfully sacrifices his welfare for the good of others. This is the life of the selfless worker. The reconciliation of freedom and guidance that Baba offers the individual may be found in the path of complete surrender to the God-man, which Baba describes as first and foremost. We might say he even exemplifies complete surrender when he leaves the timing of the manifestation entirely to the divine sanction and the divine decree. This reconciliation of freedom and guidance sheds light on the personal approach and the import of mere spiritual center being based on universality and not being identified with any religious ism. Yet this statement in his letter to Ivy Deuce immediately continues with the statement, this Baba Center will have within it 4 different centers: devotion, service, renunciation, and knowledge. But Baba makes no further comment about them in the letter. However, with reference to Baba's complicated free life message, these 4 centers can be found directly or implied in one or more of these 7 points. Each one describes a personal and individual choice. They are in brief: 1. First and foremost, complete surrender to the God-man. 2. Wholehearted love for God. 3. Company and service to saints. 4. Guarding against temptations. 5. Complete external renunciation. 6. Internal renunciation. And 7. Selfless service. The personal experience of being in Baba's home will serve to support and inspire the paths we are free to choose according to Baba's main message, with its 6 alternate options. Clearly, the complicated free life message itself is to and for the individual. However, a clear indication of the importance of the organizational approach was demonstrated by Baba on May 9th, when, in his first meeting after completing his seclusion work, he had an extensive meeting with Ivy Deuce, her daughter Charmian, and Francis Brabazon to discuss the plans to create the order and to outline their roles. In addition, whether we emphasize the personal or organizational approach in our lives, we are both individuals and social beings. Thus, we all will deal with our unique relationships to inner and outer authorities, and to other people and organizations. 2 days after this meeting, it is very interesting to note what transpired in a personal interview between Baba and Tony Rootbert, who had moved to Myrtle Beach. On a personal level, Baba gives Tony guidance consistent with his life and complicated free life messages, and then gives a description of his future plans for the center, mentioning Sufism. Baba tells her how happy he is in Myrtle Beach, how he had been here ages ago, and that she must also be happy. But Tony states, "I am only happy when I can do something for people. There is not even a hospital here." Baba interrupts, "Yes, we must do something, but something that would really make people happy, not the apparent passing happiness, but real, lasting happiness." In keeping with the message of the complicated free life, Baba goes on to give her a short discourse on selfless service as opposed to quote-unquote physical help. Baba then describes his future plans. "Now, here I have a plan. From June 15th to July 15th, when I am free from other work and not seeing people, I will do 2 things. The book, God Speaks, on the 10 states of God, and plan out the center here, which represents 4 aspects of the path to God. 4 centers in this very center. 1 of Sufism, 2 of complete renunciation for those who want to get light, 3 of selfless service to people in the way I chalk out, and 4 for those who live in the world and yet want detachment for meditation and other things. 4 centers to be made here under my guidance, where every aspirant can attain the truth." On May 14th, Tony had a second private meeting with Baba. Tony was experiencing some confusion and doubts, apparently related in part to her husband's feelings about Baba. Here we see Baba giving both the guidance and freedom that he wishes his lovers to draw upon. Baba tells her, "What you have to understand is that God and loving God are not child's play. It is like drowning in an ocean of fire. So the only thing God wants is not ceremonies, not yogas, not prayers. He wants love, the love that makes you forget yourself in Him. All isms are the same. Love and become God, not by practice of ceremonies, but by dying for God. Baba has no creed at all. Societies, groups mean nothing. Baba is above all these creeds, ceremonies, and isms. Everyone in India knows that I have no ism at all, and am not attached to any. I have reoriented Sufism, Vedanta, Buddhism, so that truth in them is kept alive. The marrow should be taken in, the bones thrown off. So unless and until you are wholeheartedly prepared to follow someone whom you think true, like Jesus, the best thing for you would be not to submit to anyone. Just go on following the inner voice, having absolutely nothing to do with anyone, including Baba. But can you surrender absolutely to Baba? Just ask yourself and be honest to the very core. Can you surrender wholeheartedly as Narina, Elizabeth, and Ivy Deuce have? Just find out for yourself. Not for one moment should you think of making your husband unhappy. That would not do. If you think by surrendering wholeheartedly to Baba, you will make him unhappy, then you should not do it. Everyone is Christ. What is new in it? Anyway, I advise you to make him happy, not to leave him for anything. And in your heart, if you love Baba, you will know how to love God. That much I can tell you. Love Baba in your heart. If possible, follow the new Sufism. If not, do not bother about it either. Such a play of guidance and freedom of choice. There is a third meeting with Tony where, in a possible reference to his manifestation as an awakening, Baba states, America now leads the material side of the universe and has such infinite possibilities that it can lead the world spiritually if awakened. And what is needed for this awakening is love for whatever God one likes, in the form of Jesus crucified or another. God will do it. He can do it. And now the time is near, very near, when this spiritual upliftment has to take place. Yes, absolutely. It has to be, and it will be. Asked if it will mean war, Baba states, I know about it all, but be sure of one thing. America is destined to lead the world spiritually. Those who love God will be the prey, Tony opined. Truth never fails, and lovers of God will soon triumph, Baba declared. I am happy. I see that you are a genuine lover of God. Baba is emphasizing individual responsibility in our choices on the path, while acknowledging the role that social and religious institutions and mores play in our lives. This is important, whichever approach we emphasize. For Baba's purposes, Myrtle Beach, being Baba's home in the West and a place of world pilgrimage, will not be connected with any religion, and yet people of various religious backgrounds who come to know of him and who want to know more will come to Myrtle Beach. In their search for God and guidance, people will be drawn by a personal inner experience, and in most cases, in the context of their relationship to a religious tradition. The choices they make will hinge on their personal faith and the integrity of the authority they perceive in the individuals and institutions they encounter in their search. When the heart is ready, Baba inwardly draws his lovers to himself, and in Myrtle Beach, Baba will amplify this inner experience by his promised presence in his home. Baba assured us of this when he gestured over the center and declared, Of all the homes I have visited, this is the home that I love the best, because it was given to me and built for me with such love. After a bit, he added, I never leave. Remember, I do not leave, because this is my home. It is on this foundation and the inner workings of the divine on the individual heart that the personal approach will always endure. It is further assured by Baba's message to the individual in his first life circular and its relationship to Baba's Man-o-nash work in the center itself, and ultimately in the freedom of his manifestation. Yet because we live in the world of ignorance and duality, we will always tend to look to external sources of guidance and authority. As we move in time farther from Baba's physical presence and that of the mandali, this will become more challenging. It is here that the numbers drawn to Sufism reoriented will be on the ascendant. Baba describes himself as the patron of Sufism reoriented, American Center in his letter to Ivy Deuce, and he lays out a clear hierarchical structure of authority and purposes for the order in its charter, assuring its continuity over time. At the same time, he has made clear the unique status of Myrtle Beach, conveyed by its being his home. While Baba was physically present, direct personal relationships flourished. At the same time, Baba began laying the foundation for establishing Sufism Reoriented as an external authority for his work in the world, beginning with having them produce and publish his book, God Speaks, of which he said, "This book will be the Quran, Bible, Avesta of Baba, unique." Throughout the evolution of Sufism Reoriented, it has excelled in preserving the records of Baba's advent and promoting awareness of Avatar Meher Baba, especially through the arts and humanitarian service projects. When Baba addressed in the barn the differences between the personal approach, "My center is in the heart of every lover," and the organizational approach, he prefaced the establishment of centers with the caveat, quote, "Whosoever wants to spread my message of love and truth needs to have a central office," close quote. Centers are for his work and only incidentally for social interaction. Baba later adds, "There should be no competition. Each one, especially the group heads, should be an example to others. Be as humble as dust. One must become like dust to work for God. The ego should not be tickled about position and office." Affirming the freedom he gives his lovers, Baba goes on to state, "It is wrong to say that people should not come to Baba through isms. You are welcome to choose your own path with your leader." Baba also affirms the personal approach when he says, "What about Elizabeth? To what group does she belong? Yet she may be loving me even more than any group heads or those working in certain groups. There may be greater lovers of Baba than the group heads. That is not to be judged. Yet someone who does not belong to any group may be the greatest lover of all. What I want is love, and to make others know about truth, what I say about truth and love for humanity. So naturally, you have groups and offices. Everything should be done in harmony. Each group should cooperate with each other. Freedom and guidance born of Baba's victory in the new life and the Man-o-nash work for both East and West gave birth to his living the union of the old and new life states, and established his manifestation even as its timing is left to the divine decree. It gave birth to the freedom of his life phase and set in motion the cultivating of countless personal contacts and connections in the West and in the East during his complicated free life, his full free life, and the fiery free life, leading up to the 3 incredible weeks and Baba's final declaration, where Baba states in part, "To affirm religious faiths, to establish societies, or to hold conferences will never bring about the feeling of unity and oneness in the life of mankind, now completely absorbed in the manyness of illusion. Unity in the midst of diversity can be made to be felt only by touching the very core of the heart. This is the work for which I have come." We see that heart work in the events and messages of 1952 and the establishment of Meher Spiritual Center to Baba's purposes as his home. Here, freedom and the personal nurture the individual and each one's path to God. After all, what more is it to be a Baba lover than for each one to share the story of their personal path and how Baba drew them to himself? Baba working through us all. With the beginning of Baba's life phase and his first real birthday, he then goes out to celebrate it in a very personal way, making individual, even if momentary, contact with his lovers east and west. Then, having done this, 7 days later, the personal approach is again underscored by Baba when he gives up the alphabet board, proclaiming the severing of external links in order to establish internal links. He states, "The time has now come for being bound in the chain of internal connections. Hence, external contact is no longer necessary. It is possible to establish the internal link by obeying Baba's orders. I give you all my blessings for strengthening these internal links. I am always with you, and I am not away from you. I was, am, and will remain eternally with you. It is for promoting this realization that I have severed external contact. This will enable all persons to realize truth by being bound to each other with internal links." This is a profound expression for those who follow the personal approach or the organizational approach. It elevates the experience of lockdowns and social distancing and underscores the importance of Baba's homes as a paradigm of home. It elevates the significance of our homes and, most of all, our hearts in beloved Baba. In the increasing turmoil of these times, as we await the fruition of his manifestation, quote-unquote, wholehearted love for God is the essence of the personal approach to God. It is expressed beautifully by Baba at Guru Prasad. In the realm of love, does ever the beloved reveal the ways in which he should be loved? You have to show me the way in which you love me. I am the ocean of love, and infinite are the ways that lead you to me. In love, there are no pre-prepared ways. It cuts its own way. It is creative. You have to find your own way. I am there, right within, to help you. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.